the depiction of Arabs and Muslims in Hollywood is always these bad, evil, terrorist people, and we're all jihadis, whatever that means. And that's not true at all. I mean, and they're like, women don't have rights. I have more rights as a Muslim woman than men do. I mean, look here, my hair is nice and flowing. The only reason I'm wearing a long sleeve is because it's cold outside. Yes, we do get cold in the Middle East. We also get snow. Not everything is a desert here. We've got greenery. So all these silly stereotypes just based on making Hollywood bucks and giving you a narrative about Arabs is completely wrong.
Wajiha,
Hey,
hi.
how are you?
Good. We're going to start with a quick this or that questionnaire.
Okay.
I'm throwing you a curveball. Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird,
Beach or mountains?
beach, and mountains. Can I
Michael
do both?
Jackson? Huh?
Can I do both?
Sure. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael Jackson.
Night in or night out?
Night in. At this age, definitely night in.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Both? I like them both.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on my first ever podcast for One in Tribe. I am super excited to have you. And the reason I wanted you as my first guest is because I find you to be super westernized, yet super Arab. And I
Yes.
love that about you. And the other day when we were talking, you said that you were coined a term during an interview
Yes.
that you did.
Mhm.
What was that term?
Okay, so yes, at the time I was based in Qatar and I was being interviewed for my training for triathlon while I was in Qatar, and it was for a very famous, well-known online magazine called Slow Twitch. And so the interviewer was very funny. He termed me a cultural mutt, and I love that because you know what mutts are? They're mixed breed. You can't tell where they're from, and I loved it because my background is I'm Palestinian, Jordanian. I was born in Saudi Arabia. I grew up in American schools, and now I'm living in Jordan and working here. So it's literally a cultural mutt. I've got mixed breed of East and West and North meets South and everything. So I think it was a great term.
I love it.
Mm.
You said you are Jordanian Palestinian. Your father and your mother moved to Saudi. How does that history look like?
So we're Palestinian. We're from Jerusalem. My grandparents were born in Jerusalem. My mom was born in Jerusalem. Just my dad happened to be born outside because it was at the time when there was the Holy War, or yeah, not the Holy War, but where the war was going on between the Zionists and the Palestinians, and the Zionists were trying to take over Palestine, which unfortunately they did succeed at the time, and we've been in conflict ever since. Or been occupied ever since, actually. And so my dad was actually born in Iraq. My grandfather and my grandmother, they're all from Jerusalem, born and raised for hundreds of years back.
So your father was born in Iraq. Your mom is from Jerusalem. And where did they meet?
So, okay, so it happens a lot in the Middle East and our culture, Arab culture in general, is that we tend to marry our relatives. So my parents are actually second cousins. So I guess yeah, known each other, or they know of each other pretty much most of their lives, or at least known about each other. So my dad is named after his grandfather. My mom is named after her grandmother, and those grandparents happen to be siblings. So that's why my parents are named after the siblings. That's how they're cousins. So they've known each other. They met, and then my grandmother asked my dad, "What do you think?" He's like, "Yes, I would like to get married." So it was like, my mom, you want to get married to my dad? My mom was like, yes, sure, why not? And then there it goes. And they were actually married. And at the time when they got married, it was a time of also civil unrest in Jordan, if I'm not mistaken. They moved to Lebanon, and from Lebanon, they moved to Saudi Arabia, where I was born. My brother was born in Lebanon.
Okay, so it's two of you,
Mhm.
and you were born in Saudi. Now, I happen to know that you were raised in Aramco.
Yeah.
Can you share with our audience what Aramco is?
Okay, so Aramco is the Arabian American Oil Company. It's an oil company based out of Houston, and Saudi Arabia is very famous for its oil. And when oil was discovered there, so this American company came and established in Saudi Arabia. And so it's pretty much what they did was they took an entire suburb from Houston and plop, dumped it right in Saudi Arabia, in Dahran, which is where I was born, and that's where I was born and raised. I was born in Americanized schools, American community. All my teachers were expats. They were all Americans, except of course the foreign language teachers. So my Arabic teacher was obviously an Arab. And yeah, we grew up American schools, American system, honor society, volleyball, softball, baseball, swimming, tennis, you name it, we got it. We had everything. So movie theaters, swimming pools, the whole thing was, again, it was a closed compound community just for the employees of Aramco, and it was 5-star. I mean, very privileged upbringing for everyone that was working there or living there or happened to be born there. Medical center, dental center. I mean, everything was top notch.
Wow. And do you leave the compound like ever?
You can, if you wanted to go into the city, the neighboring city like Khobar and Dammam. So if you want to go shopping for something outside of the local commissary, which technically you didn't have to leave to get anything you wanted. TV, we had our own TV stations. We had our own radio station. We had our own commissary. No one could access the commissary except Aramco employees and their families, of course. We had our dining hall, snack bar, golf course. Again, the entire compound. You did not have to leave it to see the rest of Saudi Arabia, but sometimes, you wanted to go shopping for like things, jewelry, perfumes, whatever that wasn't available in the commissary or available by catalog order. Remember the J.C. Penney catalog? Then you would, go into town, and that was an adventure. We considered it an adventure to go to Khubar.
Wow. So you really don't have any, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have any contact with Saudis other than the
And
ones that are living, sorry, other than the ones that are living in Aramco. Well, are there any Saudis living in Aramco? Sorry, that was a
Yeah,
two-part
of course.
question.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's obviously it was a joint partnership with the government, and and there's a contract to get the oil and extract the oil from the land. So if there were Saudis, of course, and one of my closest friends, she was right my next door neighbor. She was Saudi, and one of the years they took a decision that Saudis could not go to Aramco schools anymore because they were losing the Arabic language. We weren't speaking Arabic. I mean, my Arabic was broken for a very long time. My parents brought us tutors at home so we would learn Arabic. So they did that rule. But my friends, because they were past that age limit, they continued in the American school system, Aramco school system. But many others actually ended up going to other private schools that were for other people. If you don't want your kids in Aramco, you can send them to those private institutions. And yes, I did have Saudi friends, but only those that were their parents were employed in the compound.
Okay, okay. So outside of the compound, you don't really have
Mm.
contact with
Unless you have
locals.
friends or family, again, friends and family. So we had a lot of friends and relatives that were in Saudi Arabia, but not in Aramco. And so they would come over on the weekends to Aramco because we had a very open environment where Saudi Arabia was very different back in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, up until the Gulf War, I guess. And so it was very closed. So, you had to be very careful what you wore outside, whereas inside the compound, you could wear whatever you wanted. I mean, shorts, t-shirts, tank tops, whatever. So a lot of our relatives would come to our house and visit, and so the kids could play. We had playgrounds, go to the movies, go to the fair, watch the Halloween parade. I mean, we had a lot of activities. The Christmas tree lighting was a big activity that we did. Trick-or-treating. It was, you were in mini America. It was a suburb in the United States, but the, upscale neighborhoods.
That is
Very, very
so,
privileged. Very
yeah,
privileged.
that's so crazy. And I love how you said they literally took a piece of Houston and
Uh-huh.
transported it and placed it in the middle of Saudi.
I mean, the
Wow,
first time I
that's
went to Texas to visit Ahmed, and of course my husband, my now husband. I when first arrived in Dallas, actually they were in Arlington, and I looked and I was like, oh my God, this is home. The streets, the sidewalks, the houses, the red tiled roofs, the everything was edit copy, edit paste. You didn't have to do anything else. It was just surreal.
was that your first time in the States, in Texas?
No, we went to many other places before, but I remember the first time I went to Texas, I think I was around 10 years old, and I was like, whoa, we got this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and then you ended up going to college in Texas.
Yes, I went to university in Texas in Fort Worth. I'm a graduate from TCU. I started out in Baylor, and then I moved to Fort Worth, and I graduated from there. And from graduation, I came back to Jordan and started working here and got married here, and the rest is history, as they say.
Wow. So after college, when you graduated, did you want to stay here or did you want to go back?
Sorry.
How was that decision made?
Yeah, so it's kind of made for me. So I had you have the 1 year. So how does it work for international students in the States? You have 1 year of getting work experience. So actually, I had my advisor had gotten a job for me at Nations Bank. I don't think Nations Bank exists anymore. In Dallas, and I told my dad, I'm like, oh, I got a job, and my advisor got me a job for 1 year. He's like, nope, you're coming home. I'm like, why? He's like, because knowing you, and he was right, I would never have come back home because as you know, I'm very competitive. I love work. So he knew that I was not going to come back, and I understand his perspective now. Um, Being born and raised as an Arab Palestinian in Saudi Arabia, but Americanized with American ideology, with Western ideology, and all the history books talk about the West, that they're always right, and everyone else doesn't have freedoms and doesn't have rights, which is not true at all. I mean, even the depiction of Arabs and Muslims in Hollywood is always these bad, evil, terrorist people, and we're all jihadis, whatever that means. And that's not true at all. I mean, and they're like, women don't have rights. I have more rights as a Muslim woman than men do. I mean, look here, my hair is nice and flowing. The only reason I'm wearing a long sleeve is because it's cold outside. Yes, we do get cold in the Middle East. We also get snow. Not everything is a desert here. We've got greenery. So all these silly stereotypes just based on making Hollywood bucks and giving you a narrative about Arabs is completely wrong. I mean, it's frustrating and it's annoying, and I now understand my parents' frustration as we were growing up. Not everything that you see or hear is true.
Question though.
Hmm.
You were born in Saudi, you were raised in Aramco, you went to college in Texas. When you left Texas, you went home to Jordan? Had you ever lived in Jordan? And how did that work?
Well, we left Saudi Arabia in 1988. So basically, I was 15 years old. So we moved to Jordan. So I did 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in Jordan, and then I went back to the States for university.
Oh,
So yeah, I'd lived here for 3 years before, but I mean, technically, my home is well, there's no technically. I'm still part of the diaspora. The diaspora is what after in 1948, um, the Palestinians were expelled from Palestine, and so basically that's diaspora. We traveled everywhere. We were refugees in different countries. And so until today, I mean, there's many Palestinians that aren't living in Palestine, but still, our culture, history, the way we speak, how my accent even is very different than a Jordanian accent in Arabic. We
what
say
accent
different
is
words. Huh?
what accent is it? Can
So
somebody
I have
tell
a
where you're from when you
Yeah,
speak
also
Arabic?
you're Palestinian or you're from Jerusalem. So I can tell a person from Jerusalem versus someone from Hebron versus someone from Jaffa or Jaffa. Haifa. Everyone has a little bit of accent. So Jordanians are closer to the GCC a little bit, but a little bit softer. Lebanese and Syrians are the most like, I don't know how to say it, but twangy in Arabic. Yeah, but not Texas twang, but more maybe a little bit. Maybe you could consider it Southern twang. And so we're little bit more neutral, but everyone has an accent, so you know where they're from.
Okay.
So even like
So now,
being from Saudi Arabia is different than Kuwait, different from Qatar. Similar words, but they still have a little bit of a different accent.
okay. So now you're back in Jordan, you get a job, you get married, you have kids,
Mhm.
and what's life like the past
Okay.
20 years working and what do you do now?
Well, I right. Okay, so I have two boys, amazing boys. One just graduated from university, and the other one is in ninth grade. And so work's been great. I've been very privileged. I right now I'm currently the head of communications for a major telecom company in Jordan. Um, I'm a decision maker. I sit at the senior table. I report to the CEO. Again, like any typical woman in the United States or in Europe that is high performing, that has a career with two kids, juggling kids and a career and facing all those challenges, is the same. I mean, we're not scary, nasty people. We have normal families with normal worries, with, loans or payments or, I think the one thing that's a bit different between, not bit major difference between the West and the East, and especially the Middle East, is the family unit. And so the family unit here is very close. I live with my mother-in-law. That's unheard of in the States, you know. We take care of our elderly. We don't kick our kids out at age 18. So my son will come back and live with us if he decides to. He's right now currently looking for a job, but he's welcome to live with us until he finds a job. And even after he finds a job, until he's married, and then he can go find a place on his own and live. But that's one of the things that is beautiful about being an Arab from the Middle East, is the cultural aspect that in the family unit is so strong.
A lot of people have this idea due to the Western media that Arab women are suppressed and controlled and they're not allowed to do anything and they have no rights. How well, touch
Okay.
a little bit about that.
Yes. So again, I mentioned, I guess, earlier in the beginning that Muslim women are very well protected in Islam in terms of their rights. So, for example, women can work. Let's just take an example, and it was an example. There are many examples of this, but the Prophet Muhammad actually married a businesswoman, and she was his senior. She was older than him, I think, by 20 years. 20 years older, very wealthy, very shrewd businesswoman. And he married her, and her money stayed her money, and his work stayed his work, and she could decide if she wanted to spend her wealth on him or not. So it was an example that women can have bank accounts, they can work, and what they earn is theirs, and they don't have to contribute to the household unless they want to. It's their choice. So all of this crap about, oh, women's rights are suppressed is not true, and that's just that's again Western mythology, and taking an example that maybe is part of culture, not part of religion, and trying to apply it to everyone blanket across. So again, even the choice to cover myself, that's a choice. Um, it's preferred, just like nuns are preferred to be veiled, and just like priests are preferred. Also, they're pretty much veiled. They don't, wear anything that's revealing as well. And it has no indication whatsoever on my spiritual faith or anything at all. It's a choice that we make. So, but maybe cultural differences might say that, oh, for example, some men don't like their women to work, but that's an agreement you reach with your husband. So, yeah.
One thing that we didn't mention that I kind of want to go back to is your grandfather.
Hmm.
Your grandfather was a very prominent Palestinian gentleman.
Yes.
Can we talk about that? Who is your grandfather?
Yeah, so my grandfather, I know you're talking about my dad's dad, Abdul Qadir Husseini. He was a uh, part of the army that rose against the Zionists. He actually established an army called the Army of the Holy War. Um, and he was martyred at the very young age of 41, I believe, or 41 or 42 in 1948. And he was the last stand before the Zionists entered Jerusalem. He was very well educated. He graduated from the American University of Cairo. He studied chemistry, and actually, when he crossed the stage to take his degree, he stood up and he told the dean of students, he ripped his degree in half, and he was like, "I don't need a Western ideology to tell me I'm an educated man. Your degree means nothing to me." And although he had graduated with honors and everything, so it was a very powerful political statement. And actually, the dean of students applauded him and said, "Yes, that is true." And at the time, it was the whole, influx of European Jews coming into Palestine, of which we opened our homes to them and we helped them settle down because we believe in helping the less fortunate and the weak. And of course, everyone knows what was happening in World War II. And so we opened our homes to them to have a safe and refuge place. And in return, we were stabbed in the back and occupied. So if you don't mind, I'll tell you a small story. One of my good friends from Saudi Arabia, his mom was around 12 or 13 years old at the time when the influx was coming in, and they housed an Eastern European Jewish family. And this is not about religion. This is about the Zionist ideology. And so it was a woman and her daughter. And in exchange for living in the home, they were also helping with the household. So my friend's mom and her best friend every day would bring their lunch or breakfast baskets to school. So on one particular, and who prepared the breakfast basket was the refugees and the refugee woman in the household. So that one day they went to school and she sat across from her best friend and they decided, let's exchange picnic baskets. So they exchanged the picnic basket, and my friend's mom opened hers, and of course the food is there, and her best friend sitting across from her opened the basket, and it was a trigger bomb. And she saw her friend die in front of her by the refugees that they opened their homes to.
Wow.
That's what we're talking about.
Wow.
They didn't learn about genocide. They actually created it. So it was, and that's what we're living today. Sorry, got it.
I didn't expect. I didn't expect that at all. So wow.
That's generational trauma for you.
Yeah.
That's what we're living, and that's what we're living today. And in what's happening in the West Bank and Palestine, you open your home to people to help them, and what they do is they stab you in the back and try to occupy you. And then when you resist against them, you're the terrorist. Yeah, that's just it.
Okay, let's take a moment.
Take a deep breath.
Thank you for sharing that story, although very, very intense. The Muslim religion recognizes the other two main religions, correct?
Yeah, of course. So we call them people of the book. So you have a book, you have the Bible, you have the Torah. And for us, the Prophet Musa and the Prophet Jesus, they're prophets, they're and messengers. They're not just, I think there's a difference between a prophet and a messenger. So they're messengers. They came down with a book and a set of rules of how to live life and live together. And for us, the Islam is the continuation. Judaism came first, then Christianity, and then Islam, which is a continuation. And if anyone just took the time to understand what Islam means, it means to submit to the will of God. When I say Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, because the word Islam is from salam, from peace. So we're not violent, we're not terrorists. We're strongly against it. Plus, again, if someone's going to come and attack you, you're going to defend yourself for sure. I mean, even Kamala Harris said that if someone enters her home, she's going to pick up a weapon and defend herself. But that's only if you're in the West. Because if you're in the East or the Middle East, you're not allowed to defend your home. You have to suffer and be occupied, and that's okay.
It's so sad because from what I know of Islam, I don't know much. It's a very peaceful religion. It's a very beautiful religion. But yet, again, I hate to say it, but the West has turned it into this evil religion, and it's just so sad. makes
Yes.
me angry. And I'm fifth generation Arab. So I can't imagine. And I'm not even Muslim, but it must be so hard to just have to hear it and not be able to do anything about it.
Well, I mean, what we do is with the things that we're doing today, which is having these conversations, sharing our posts. I have many friends that are of different religions and from different places around the world. And for all of them, we talk about, the misconceptions. So anyone who comes to the Middle East and visits sees that what they're being spoon-fed on TV and in the media, the fake Fox News or fake news from CNN or BBC or whatever angle they're trying to push, NBC, ABC, whatever Zionist agenda they're trying to push, they see that they're like, hold on a second, there's another side here. What's going on here? Why are we only being fed one side? Which is what we try to do as much as possible with our friends and our stories, and even in making films, documentaries, and movies.
Keep on wanting to go back because I feel like we kind of have been on tangents. But do you see yourself as more westernized or more Arab? What culture do you relate to more, or what do you feel more of?
Well, can I say human culture? I
Yes.
mean, it's neither east nor west. It's a mix of both. So growing up in the West, I understand I know what they're talking about. I can see, I know what they're
Growing
doing.
up in the East. Sorry.
No, West, because American schools, American culture, my compound was American. So
Oh, yes.
or
I
Western
apologize.
ideology, and also being very, very Arab, coming from a very, very prominent family from Jerusalem, also, I have another perspective. So for me, at the end of the day, we all came from one person or two people, Adam and Eve, and then we're just like we were spread out. So I don't know what this crap is about. My religion is better than yours. As long as you are a good person, you help those in need, and you're not selfish or greedy or any of the seven deadly sins. If you're not practicing any of those, you're a good person. I'm not going to judge you because your religion is different. I could care less what your religion is. I don't get into conversations about religion with my friends because it's very sensitive. They become very aggressive. Anytime someone has a different opinion or way of life than yours, then they're going to become aggressive to defend their way of life. So for me, growing up with various cultures and around different people, I have friends from all the way from Malaysia, China, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, France, Italy, UK, Canada, Germany, everywhere. I have friends everywhere. I have relatives from all these countries as well. I mean, you see that we're all just, we all are just normal people with normal day-to-day problems and just want to give our kids a better experience and a better lifestyle and be more secure and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the beaches and enjoy adventures. And so I'm part of the human race. I don't want to be east and west. I want to be human and care and be affected by um, unfairness and try to do something to make it fair again.
I think the bottom line, right, is that everyone just wants to feel safe
Mhm.
and be healthy and have a roof over their head and
Exactly.
food to eat, and that for their themselves and for their family and their loved ones. We all, every single one of us on earth want the same thing, and
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
try to divide us, whether it's by religion or culture or whatever it is. And we are so much more similar than we are different. And if only
Absolutely.
people can see that.
I mean, even like the other day, I was watching something where what was it? Was it Giuliani made the dumbest statement? He's like, they teach 2-year-olds how to kill. No, we don't. No, please. Oh, grow up. We're teaching our 2-year-old how to walk and talk, and how to hold a fork, and how to eat, and how to speak. Not some what I don't know what his mom raised him to be, but definitely we're not raising our children to be violent people.
And the other day, you were telling me about a podcast that you were listening to about Arabs and how they don't see death the same way.
Oh yes.
Well,
Okay. So this was a great podcast, and they were doing coverage of the massacre that happened in Iraq, where 17 family members, mostly women and children, were annihilated by American troops because they sometimes when you send in a teenager with a machine gun, which is what's happening today in Palestine, just to circle back on that, they don't know what they're doing and they think they're playing some sort of video game. So uh, they went in and they shot up 17 children and mothers as young as 2 years old, saying that these were terrorists or they were attacking us. They walked into their homes. They were sitting on the bed. The mother was hugging her children, protecting them, afraid from what was happening. They entered their home. So what they said was that they were interviewing an American general who was trying to defend these soldiers who invaded this innocent home. And he said, well, they don't view death like we do. I was like, what? Why? What? And even the interviewer was like, what does that mean? Like, how do you not, what do you mean they don't view death? Yeah, we respect our dead. We bury our dead. We deal with death in a very spiritual way. Um, so I was really shocked by that. I mean, we bleed red, we have tears, we cry over our loved ones. My dad passed away 6 years ago. I still miss him. My grandmother passed away in 1985. I miss her immensely. I miss my grandfather that was martyred before I was born. I look at his picture and I cry. Yeah, of course. If that's what it means to, view our dead differently, then yeah, okay, fine. We have emotions and we have very strong emotions towards our loved ones, like any normal human being who loved his parents or his friends or his siblings and lost them. So I was really shocked at that statement saying that, it doesn't matter. If they die, it's fine. They're going to go to heaven or whatever. That's not it. Yes, we do believe that if you die during war, like what's happening in the genocide, that they have a better place. They're going to a better place. They're going to be with God, which is much better than living this horrible reality. And they get to be the lucky ones that are martyrs, and they'll forever be etched in history, and they're straight one-way ticket to heaven. So that's how we view that angle. But does it hurt? Yes. Are we in pain? Absolutely. Do we cry? Hell yeah. Do we bleed? Absolutely. Is it red? Yep. Once it hits that oxygen, blood turns red. Absolutely. So that was a very shocking statement. Like, like the brainwashing.
it's deep.
It's so deep and so ingrained, and you, people will believe anything you say. It's frustrating. I can't tell you how frustrated I am. Like even
I
the
believe
question,
you.
my heart rate's like when you ask the question.
That's the reason I'm doing this podcast, is so that the West, in a way, you can't blame them because a lot of people have never met an Arab. So all they know of Arabs is what they've been told their entire lives. And as you mentioned before, in Hollywood, Arabs are always portrayed as terrorists and evildoers and jihadists. In a way, you can't blame them. And this is why I'm creating this podcast, to show a peek into the lives of Arabs and to show this humanity side, right? Like you said, we're all humans.
But you can do your own research and you can ask questions and you can question what you're being spoon-fed on TV all the time. And that's the beauty of social media today. They can't hide behind their fake one-way narratives anymore. And I think what we've seen today since October 7th, and with the spread of social media and the huge demonstrations globally, that the public narrative has changed. The political one, unfortunately, has remained the same because there's still these, geriatrics in power that still are warmongering and want money. But the youth, the young generation, the users of social media are exposed and are seeing what's going on, and they're questioning. They're like, wait a minute, this is not what we are. This is not what's going on. How can you justify this? I mean, the other day there was a convention in Canada, in Montreal, and it was for the Ukraine. And so the social media guy was asking them all questions. Are Ukrainian lives more important than Palestinian? Are they more valuable than Palestinian lives? And they were like, no comment. I can't answer that. I don't know. Like, really, you don't know? Like, it's all, Ukrainian lives are more valuable than Palestinian lives? Do Palestinian lives matter like Ukrainian lives? And they were all just ignoring the question, like, or shaking their heads and saying, oh, and he was like, oh, you can't answer that? That's a really difficult question, isn't it?
Like you said, people are finally waking up,
Mm.
and that gives us hope.
Yes, absolutely. So I hope so. You know,
Ba-dum-bum-bum.
we hope.
So before we go, what are your hobbies, your passions? What do you like to do?
Oh, yes. Okay. Fun question. So I love to read. I love, love, love to listen to music. I love sports. As an Arab female training for triathlon, I'm actually the first Jordanian, possibly Palestinian, female to finish a full Ironman. So that's an accomplishment. And also in my age group, I was 44 when I did the Ironman in France. And I love true crime. And I just consume documentaries and podcasts on true crime, left, right, and center. So I'm a murderino.
Nice. I think so much about you when I listen to music, especially like rap. Like you're so into R&B and rap and hip hop and rock, and it's just that's when I see like the American Wajiha, you know?
Yeah, I'm that friend where if you say any sentence, I'll turn it into a song. I'll remember musical lyrics. In my genre of music, it's very wide ranging. So I love everything from, hip hop, classical. I don't like jazz. I'm not really into jazz that much. Up to heavy metal. So like, big range, but not thrash metal. Yeah, but I like good heavy metal rock song, hard rock song, ballads, slow pop, everything. I love music, even Arabic as well. Arabic, and every day is
Taban.
there's always someone says something in my head. It's like, oh, that song. I know there's a song for those lyrics for that sentence.
Awesome. Wajia, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about your culture, traditions? I love your culture. I love your tradition. I love your food. I love your people. Is there anything before we go that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Come visit the Middle East. Come visit the Arab side. Don't take the propaganda tours. Come see really what's happening. Um, Follow me on social media if you want to. I'm sharing a lot of information, and for like a peek into what a modern Arab lifestyle looks like, from someone else's eyes. And be don't be afraid to ask questions. Be curious. Ask, go out, do your research, find out. We say there's always three sides to every story: my side, your side, and the truth. Go and seek truth.
And Wajia, where can they find you, our audience, if they want to get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
So definitely Instagram. I'm an Instagrammer more. I share everything on my handle, Wajiha Yazan. Yazan means mother of Yazan, who's my eldest. And I'll shout out to Faisal, who's the youngest. Two boys.
And LinkedIn?
Yes, LinkedIn, Wajiha Al-Husseini.
Perfect. Wajiha, it has been a pleasure. I am
Thank
so
you.
happy and grateful that you joined me on my first ever podcast. And let's do it again.
I would love to. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be your first. I hope I hope I'll come again on your show. And thanks so much for honoring me with the first interview. And I hope we answered some questions or at least shed some light on Arabs in the Middle East.
I think we definitely did. Thank you, Yislamu.
Thank
And
you.
until next time, big kiss.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.